The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Sooner or Later Sports Show. I am your host, Jay. We've got Coop in the studio today. It's been about a week and a half since we got to kick it with y'all. We're going to dive into what went down with that Buccaneers game. We're going to talk about how the Sooners are trending up. We're also going to talk through a potential visitor. So we're going to have us a good time as usual. Thank y'all for pulling up. Please wipe your feet. Hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, rate us, view us, give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Go ahead and give us 5 anyway and gift it. So, Coop, happy Sunday. It didn't end up the way we wanted it to, but it ended up the way it was supposed to. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, it's, we had multiple Oklahoma quarterbacks, a lot of players across. You got Baker just showing out and earning him some cheddar. You hope that there's not any goofiness in that organization, and they just pay the man. He played well today. You say that you'd rather lose a close game than a blowout, and they both are not fun. So, but good job for Bake. Great year for him.
Yep, it was a great year for Bake. Got him to the playoffs. Got a playoff win, something that's not happened in a bit as well since the GOAT was here and we didn't get our Super Bowl run again like we did in 2000. But, it's all right. Bake did earn him. He earned him some money. So it's been a good Sunday for me checking this out. Been fighting some cooties, a little allergies in here with this weather change. But, Coop, you sound great. So it sounds like you're back to your standard spirits and everything.
Man, I got to say, feeling good. Started the new job last week of November. Worked through some back issues and some pneumonia, and I feel fantastic. Yeah,
that's good. I'm glad that you're actually feeling better. Hey, everybody. Hey, Mike over at Sooner Legends podcast. Make sure to check him out. He's been dropping some content about legendary stuff. I know he did something for Coop recently and gave us a shout out. Appreciate that, Mike. So here's that return favor. Check out Mike and the Sooner Legends podcast and check out what Mike's over there making. He's talking about a lot of old school Oklahoma stuff, which, it's always appreciated or whatnot. What's going on, Steven? We appreciate that. And James, no, we're not talking about the Cowboys. I don't want to pour salt into their wounds. I feel bad for Cowboys fans because they keep staying on that narcotic. It's that narcotic that they should not be on anymore, but they keep doing it to themselves because they went 12 in 5? What's this? 4 years in a row, and they just still can't get it done. Why are we here? Why are we even talking about it? We shouldn't be doing it, James. We're not gonna beat them up as much as I would like to. Hey, Kenny, happy Sunday. Eddie, you're right. All the Lamar haters are definitely getting quiet. And so we're going to dive into this. Jen, appreciate it.
Ooh.
You're the best, not me. You are the best. But let's talk about this game, though, Coop. I actually want to jump into that first, and then we'll talk more Oklahoma stuff, but we're going to lead off with, of course, Oklahoma content around Baker Mayfield. And so one thing I did want to say real quick, if you notice, there's another channel with the name of this show. I made that. I'm going to start moving some of the Sooner or Later cuts into that YouTube channel separately, just so we can make sure it's all Oklahoma content as we're growing and whatnot here. We're growing fast, and so I made a second one just to have it there. You go over there and subscribe, Sooner or Later Sports. You'll see it in the description below after this video is complete. But, Coop, Baker tried to drive him back, and he threw an interception in the game. How did you feel about Baker's performance against the Lions today?
It's in any football game, it's a sum of all of its parts. There's a lot of frustration around Buccaneers not catching the ball early in the game. They dropped a pick in the end zone, which could have turned away the Lions. But here, I'll say this. First of all, congratulations to Detroit. Dan Campbell, and I've seen it in there, Dan Campbell has got something going on, and that was hard. That was a hard game to watch because I'm kind of rooting for Dan Campbell and the Lions also because, growing up, Barry Sanders was just that guy, and he was fun to watch. And we came up in the age of the argument of, yeah, you put, Barry Sanders behind that Dallas Cowboys offensive line and he'd have ran for 2,500 yards a year. And so it's been a long time in Detroit, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, you leave some stuff on the field. It's going to be a game that the Buccaneers look back on and wonder what if. And so, but at the same time, they had, you heard it on the broadcast, they had zero expectations coming into this year. None at all, right? So it's not like they were Super Bowl bound and they came up short, like the game that's going on right now with Buffalo and Kansas City, or, a 49ers or anything like that. So Baker just continues to be a guy that people, really, really like to rally around. There were some good comparisons with how, his coach is extremely, extremely calm, and Baker is Baker. But at the same time, I mean, it's a fun thing. You hope that Baker gets paid. I don't think Baker's going to clear the $40 million mark like some of these bigger contracts. But, I think the dude's baseline contract was $2 or $3 million this year, and he made a couple million in bonuses. And so hopefully Tampa Bay just comes in, lays it down for him, and brings him back. Hopefully we can keep improving on that running game, because they were dead last in the NFL. And receivers got to catch balls. Defensive backs got to catch interceptions, and that game could have been completely different. So,
yeah, they play about as good as I expected them to play. I'm going to be absolutely honest. As you can see, I'm wearing the creamsicle. I've been a Buccaneers fan since the creamsicle days, back of being for real losers throughout the 90s and 80s and every year in between. But I grew up as a Bucs fan. It was one of the teams that I adopted as a young child to break my heart for the entire rest of my life. And I've stuck to it. And I've gotten 2 Super Bowls out of it, so I cannot be mad. But yeah, the defense has been questionable to me all season, especially across the middle. And I don't understand. Todd Bowles being a defensive guy, they just could not figure it out on defense. And then that offensive line has been questionable. Seems like injuries have definitely, that bug has made things bad, because, yeah, Baker literally didn't have much time to get rid of that dang ball.
No.
So I'm not going to lose my mind on it, but at the same time, I had higher expectations for I think, for them than they had for themselves. But overall, the game was fun. It came down to the wire. That first interception Baker threw, it feels like Mike Evans he wears anti-stickum, it seems like, because he seems to miss all the easy catches, and then it deflects off his hands. So I don't even know how to even express it, to be honest, because every time I look up, I'm just like, bro, that was yours. But then he has that drive. We have the 2-minute drives. Like, and I guess the thing that frustrates me when I really look back at it is Baker Mayfield and the Bucs, just them together and even independently, have this tendency of showing out at like 2 minutes left in the game, in a half or the game, right? Their 2-minute drill is just pristine. Where's the rest of it? Like, why aren't we seeing this through most of the game? And like you mentioned, the run game, this game showed up. Ain't been showing up most of the season. Mm-hmm. I just don't even know how to feel on that. We're like, what is up? Mike Evans, 10 seasons straight with 1,000 yards. Coop, explain to me, how does he be missing these easy ones, these gimmies?
I got no answer for it. But when you look at certain receivers who really, really separate themselves, like right now you've got, Stephon Diggs, you've got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. These guys, I mean, they catch the ball whenever it's CeeDee Lamb he absolutely balled out. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just the fact that, you've seen some drops by CD this year, but when you're getting 15 targets a game, can you catch every single one? But you want to see those. That interception is just it's crap. Just because I wish they'd do something different with the statistics when it comes down to that. But you know what? Here it is. You're going to get a pick. Every game out of Baker for the most part. Hopefully it's not because his receiver lets the ball bounce off of his hands right up into the middle of prevent defense. But at the same time, again, they overachieved. I don't know who I just saw it in there. Maybe Sooner Cowboys, since it was very positive. But it says they're gonna lose to the Niners anyway. But so it might end up being a Detroit 49ers. Just clash next week. That looks amazing. So let's see what happens, because I think the rest of the country is going to be rooting for Detroit right now, outside of Cali.
Yeah, I need the Lions to go ahead and go. I like Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell gave a lot of praise to Baker as well before the game, and just because he likes the way he fights. And of course, as a Sooner fan, I enjoy Baker. A lot of people don't like Baker because they think he's an arrogant guy, blah blah blah. And it's one of those situations where you love him if he's your guy, right?
Yeah,
he gives you the moxie that you like when he's your dude. If he's not your dude, you don't like him. That's hence why a lot of people hate other players. But I really wanted Tampa to be able to just get one more win. But at the same time, as Chuck mentioned here in the comments, yes, Baker's definitely earned himself an opportunity to be the franchise quarterback going forward. Only 6 years in the league, still young, but he threw 4,000 yards. So that's all you need if you want to be able to show that you're good enough to lead this team going forward. You're good enough to be a franchise guy going forward. So I have no doubt that they'll be smart enough to recognize that portion of it. But besides that, what other takeaways did you see from Bake before we dive into some Sooner content?
I mean, he's passionate, right? So when he comes out and you see the team just going crazy, he didn't lose that game. But at the same time, you got a minute and change. Was it a minute and 6 seconds or something like that? Right after going into the first half, they go down and score a touchdown. Like that was glorious. And so you're sitting there thinking, like, what would happen right there? What would happen on this? Is this going to be this last second drive for the to tie the game coming back in? People are going to second guess the going for two. It's all right, but here's the overall: is when you look at Jalen Hurts, you look at Baker, you look at Kyler, Sam, Jason. I think the reason why. I think the reason why Baker is the favorite is because that moxie, that let's go, like everybody can rally around him. Because it's hard to rally around a guy like Kyler, who's just dead silent, doesn't do much. We're hearing some stuff out of Philly, some chemistry stuff. So just focus on good. Baker earned himself some really, really good payday this year. CeeDee Lamb. He is Tyreek Hill had one of the better years in NFL history for a wide receiver, and he barely beat CD by 50 yards receiving. So CD balled out this year. It's good to see these guys going crazy on the big stage. And yeah, listen, man, I'm a Denver Broncos fan. I would. I don't know. I will put the for sale yard in Russell's front yard and whatever weird shit that he's doing inside his house and move him out, because I'd love to see Baker head up there with Sean Payton and take over Denver. That I would take that in a heartbeat. But hopefully Tampa Bay, like I said, hopefully Tampa Bay doesn't mess around, because you mess around and now you're trying to go search something out. So kudos to Baker, kudos to Tampa Bay. It's going to end up as a season of what if, but at the same time, get better. Let's see the offensive line. Rachaad White, I don't think was super highly touted coming in the NFL draft. So maybe you can go in and find yourself somebody there. I don't know about Godwin and Evans both. I can't remember if they're both going to come back, but Baker seems to be finding a really, really good guy in Cade Otton, and he loves that tight end. So, who I'd like to see is, let's see if maybe a Drake Stoops can get, become a little slot receiver as a possession, because they've got the Palmer kid from Tennessee, and he's a burner, but I'd like to see Drake just work the middle, a little double-double with Otton and Drake over the middle with little tiered routes. That would be beautiful. So, but here we go. We're down to the final four here soon. Looks like Buffalo just scored to go up 10-3. So game on.
Yeah, it's game on. So thank y'all for pulling up if you're in here, go ahead and wipe your feet. Hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Love for you to join this family of college football fans, especially Sooner fans we have up in here. If you're listening to the audio version, rate, review, give us 5 stars, as we mentioned before. So let's talk about some recruiting, right? There's some recruiting to talk about because Oklahoma has been doing some stuff that a lot of fans don't like, right? There's one thing that I've been hearing a lot of complaints about, Coop, been complaining about NIL. Why aren't we paying all these players at all these other schools to come here, right? Why don't we just bring everybody in, all the best players in the country? Why don't we hoard all the talent like Alabama did? Why aren't we taking advantage of the fact that Alabama's hemorrhaging right now? Why? And so before I really get into the recruiting aspect of it, let's talk about this, right? Did you check out the Polynesian Bowl, Coop?
Yes.
You see those 2 dudes in the middle? It's coming to Oklahoma. Both get fumble recoveries for touchdowns and sacks.
It's, I will say this. There's a lot of expectation for David Stone, but Jackson could be the difference maker for what happens here. Those guys know each other very, very well. Jane Jackson he's shaping up to do some damage. It's going to be good, and I love that relationship with them. But yeah, when is the last time in an all-star or all-star game or anything like that you can say I was really, really excited to watch all those OU defensive linemen just bowl out? I mean, last year a little bit with PJ, but now you're starting to see some stuff because Jackson, Aaron Donald is more of a David Stone type of, or I guess David Stone's more of an Aaron Donald body type, but Jayden Jackson has got a little bit of that Vita Vea and some of those bigger nose tackles who are just going to plug up. So I'm here for it. I'm excited, and it does not matter. Doesn't matter what we have coming back, because when you bring in, and I'm not going to say it, but when you bring in guys like that, it pushes everybody. And then now you've got all these defensive tackles that are there. Dejon Terry is going to be able to, to be there as the starter and to really, really show them the ropes, have the conversations about the SEC with those 2 guys. So yeah, it's Jackson is a man, and he is somebody that you should be really, really excited about. And that's not to take anything away from David, because David is psychotic. I mean, he is just an absolute beast in the middle too. But it's violence with the hands. It is quick footwork. I mean, both of those guys, they practice all these things. And I promise you, as they're getting coached up individually, they're sharing that with each other. And listen, Oklahoma commit defensive tackle with a fumble recovery touchdown was uttered 2 times. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's something that we, like you said, we haven't really seen before here. And that's probably the thing that jumped out the most is we're recruiting the guys we want, right? Like, of course, we would like to get more. We would like to get every top player, but there are particular players that this staff is going after. And I'm going to be 100% honest with a lot of you. Yes, I would love for our NIL to just go blow money on every single player that's possible out there.
Yeah.
But I also would like for us to be smart about who we go after, and we don't go after dudes that's going to just take the money and then jump right back into the portal. Because this is something I did notice. There was a few dudes that I really liked that were in the portal, especially when, let me pull back. We had concerns about the wide receiver room going into last season, right? You remember that, Coop?
Yes.
There was a lot of conversations about that. People were asking questions. What's our wide receiver room going to look like? Oh, my God, it's not very good. All we've got is Farouk, and everybody else really isn't all that good. We don't know what's going on. And so Oklahoma spent some time in the portal. They started filtering through guys. You had like Cephas that pulled up. We also had the tall guy. Was it Brogdon that ended up at Arkansas? We had Dorian Singler who ended up at USC. We had a lot of dudes that pulled up, right? And I think this is the thing that was fascinating about it is that Oklahoma saw Andrew Anthony, who statistically wasn't very good at Michigan. Like, look at the numbers. He wasn't. But he also wasn't really used. There was a talent there, but he wasn't used. So Oklahoma said, you know what? That's who we want. Get him. We got him. Hired Emmett Jones, got him. You brought in Andrew Anthony and all the other 3 or 4 targets we went after, Trey Harris, all of them. We didn't get any of them, right? We didn't get them. Hear me out on this. It was because the staff actually liked the room that they currently had over the dudes coming in. They just say, you know what? We really need just one more piece to add to what we're doing because we like the guys we recruited. The guys we recruited the last 2 years think we're solid. We still got the veteran in Stoops. We still got some of the young guys. I think we like our room the way it is. Cool beans. Guess what happened after that? That became our strongest room this past season, right? Everybody raves about the way the room plays now.
Yeah.
But before this season, we complained about the way this room looked. I add this to it. And this is something that I recommend a lot of you Sooner fans think about. As soon as we look at who the staff is going after in all the positions, if they get certain players, it's probably because they wanted those particular guys, for one, and two, those dudes are willing to come in and compete instead of dictate what's going to happen in their recruitment, right? A lot of dudes that hit the portal because I mentioned that because those wide receivers we recruited, half of them are back in the portal for a second time. Did y'all want guys like that on your team? No,
Stinger?
you don't. You don't, right. Cephas, Stingler, I think Trey Harris went back in the portal. You've seen dudes re-enter the portal that y'all would have been upset about. It's because they didn't get the playing time that they were promised, so they bounced.
Yeah.
Look at what we're doing here, right? That's the thing. And I'm saying that with emphasis for my Sooner fans to understand. So Oklahoma was hosting potential set of a lineman potentially to come through. It's been all over the interwebs. And if the insiders got some more intel on it, you could jump on. I know Brandon Drum dropped a note. I saw something from Colin Kennedy as well. Go check them out, 247 Rivals, whichever one you prefer. But we know that someone was pulling into town. I'm waiting for them to officially drop a picture that they was here so I can really talk about it. But they've been dropping hints about it, right? Well, this player also did visit Oklahoma during their recruitment. Actually, both the brothers visited Oklahoma during their recruitment. So there's a relationship there. And when a lot of these dudes, and I'm going along with it, I know, my apologies. But whenever a lot of these dudes hit the portal, they usually end up at the second or third school they have relationships with, unless there's a cursing change. So, Coop. I know that everybody wants NIL to spend all this money and blow it, but I don't understand how a lot of the fans don't see that when we bring in recruits, these last 3 classes, how we refreshed this roster over 90%, that we ain't brought in the dudes that we actually kind of want to see play. Like, what should we do with these recruits? Should we just tell them to go ahead and kick rocks? Or should we take the evaluations in training camp and say, oh, these dudes are actually a lot better than we thought? What you think, Coop? Am I crazy? I just wonder if I'm crazy.
I'll say this, is we've seen the adjustment in the culture at this point, right? From the P90X, Booty Tybo, strength and conditioning, now Schmitty, Venables, this family. This culture is pointed in the right direction, but it is not the foundational piece. It is building still.
Right.
And you need, and listen, I would love to say like a second year with the head coach, third year with the head coach and all that stuff. Like, let's just be honest. Like, you lose your top receiver, you lose the Heisman Trophy quarterback in the past 2 years. You have your number 1 wide receiver go out with an ACL. You have your number 1 linebacker go down with injury. Andrew Anthony, this is ifs and buts, candies and nuts, but Stutzman doesn't get hurt against Okie State and, Kansas, we win one of those games, right? What happens to the Big 12 championship? What happens to playoffs? Andrew Anthony doesn't go down. This offense is a little bit different, right there. I'll say this, is there was a story, and I'm maybe, and I can't remember where I heard this from, so this is, this is not me coming up with something, but there was a story about when Randy Moss was with the Las Vegas Raiders. Everybody around the world was going, Randy's done. He's right. He ain't it anymore. He's done.
Cooked.
No more. No more. Well, then he comes up for free agency, and here comes Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick to come pull them over to the Patriots. And one of the things that was bad about that was he was such a head case and he didn't fit that culture. Well, I think they took a risk because they said, here's the deal, is we'll bring him in. This culture is solid. You've got Mike Vrabel, Teddy Bruschi, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick is the GOAT. You've got all this stuff going on, and you can absorb somebody, just one, maybe two of those type of guys, because your culture is so strong. I don't think that the culture is right there yet to invite in a bunch of people who are mercenaries, because that is all it is. Caden Green, like what happened, don't like what happened, he was a mercenary. You hear, we'll talk about it a little bit later. Proctor, same situation. Is when some of these people, and you hear about the, I can't remember what is the Players podcast where they say, like, if you want to get paid,
Podcast on the Prairie.
Yeah, Podcast on the Prairie. If you want to get paid, go to the portal because people are willing to champ out. Now, we've seen it go sideways at Miami. We've seen it go sideways at A&M. Now, Ole Miss is going to F around and find out. So I'll say this is when you have all these situations, you look at a Quinshon Judkins, maybe the best running back in the SEC, and he heads out and he goes to the Big Ten to Ohio State. You can't bring in all these people with all this money and then not have people on your team go, I mean, I could just put my name out there a little bit and kind of see what happens, right? And so that is going to happen. And I've made mention of it in the past, but you have a guy, so a linebacker hits the portal, and he is a dude. He is great. The safety out of Clemson. Ended up committing to Mbuka. So everybody was like, "Oh, Brent Venables guy, he's a big safety. Let's roll. Let's bring him in." How does that affect
Andrew Makuba? Yeah,
Andrew Makuba. So how does that affect Peyton Bowen, Billy Bowman, Robert Spears Jennings, Jayden Rowe, all these safety kids coming in, and then a Jonah Williams potentially for 25? Like, how does that affect all of that when you're bringing that in? Because as a player, you're thinking like, man, I could be like on the verge of becoming a starter as a freshman or as a sophomore, and then all of a sudden you've got that doubt coming in because you're like, what happens if like second team All-American from another, from Kansas State or something hits the portal? Like, are they going to slide him in front of me? Because most of these guys aren't afraid of competition, but I think they want an even playing field. And as a player, let's go with Peyton Bowen, is Peyton sees there Makuba potentially coming in. He slides in. He all of a sudden has to split some snaps.
Yeah.
So what would you as a fan go, listen, I'll take Makuba and let Peyton go mess around in the portal? Hell no. None of us want that. None of us want that. So when you see the Herd kid, he's looking for cheddar. And when you're trying to find the offensive line, I don't think we're one bookend away from this offensive line being studs. And if you bring one guy in and he doesn't work out, now everybody's being like, well, I mean, shit, you brought that guy in, gave him almost $1 million, and Punk's not even like busting it on the practice field right now. So I'm just, I don't know.
So I don't want to go that far on it or whatnot, but I do want to say this though, to add to that. Like a player like Herd's legit, right? He's at LSU. He wasn't cracking that starting job. Obviously, hence why he left. It wasn't more. I don't think he left for money from LSU. I think he wanted to play. But once you hit that portal, you chase the money because it makes no sense for you to go out there and undersell yourself, right? So think about it this way: who has an opening at the left tackle position? Think about it. We don't. Sexton's got that one. Sexton has got that left tackle spot because he's been playing it. He's played well when he's been in the game, replacing Tyler Guyton at the right side, but he's going to move over to the left because he's going to play on the blind side of the quarterback, which is what they got him for. Sexton didn't, and for those that didn't know this, Sexton didn't play the first 7 games of the season. The reason why we went after Walter Rouse, excuse me, I couldn't get it out. The reason why we went after Walter Rouse and we got him to flip from Nebraska and paid him was because Sexton tore his ACL in the bowl game. But that was your starting left tackle.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
a year ago yesterday.
A year ago yesterday. Go look at his social media.
When he had surgery
on Twitter not too long ago. He had surgery a year ago yesterday, but he tore his ACL in the Cheez-It Bowl. But that was your starting left tackle. He was a freshman at that point. He was going to actually start at left with Guyton, and because of that injury, you needed additional depth, so you went and got yourself a veteran. You went and got that. But this is the thing I'm thinking about. Sexton's going to be your left. Jake Taylor's going to be right there next to him. You bring in a Spencer Brown to compete with Taylor because Taylor can probably end up taking that right tackle spot and Spencer Brown being behind him. Because I think the Jakes are probably going to be your bookends. When you go in between, you got a lot of players. We got a lot of players on this line that this staff really likes. They brought in Fabici because he's a freshman All-American. We lost Caden, so we need to bring in a replacement for him. Fabici was a freshman All-American, guys. And Seth Luttrell really likes him. That tells you something.
Yeah.
That's something I want y'all to ponder on when we have these conversations about particular players, because I'll say this, and Chuck, you made this great point for me right here before we try to move ourselves on, because I don't want these to be too long-winded of monologues. I want us to be back and forth again. That's my fault. I take blame for this. You want players that want to compete for spots. A lot of these dudes hitting the portal ain't here to compete. They here for you to tell them they're going to start. Why would you hit the portal when you can compete where you're staying at, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to get a lot of my people here. All y'all that follow me. Y'all know I try to take a good perspective and think. Me and Coop do that. That's the thing to consider when it comes to these portal dudes. A lot of them are not coming here just to... They're not coming here to say, oh, I want to come here and go compete somewhere. I want to go ahead and potentially try to start. No. They going in there for the bag in a starting position, because if they wanted to compete, they probably would have stayed where they were at, unless they're processed. The processed dudes, a lot of them they don't care. They just trying to find a place to land. That's why the portal's so full of dudes that don't get picked up, because some of them go in the mindset of, if I ain't starting, why am I not going here? Think about that. Always think about that perspective. Coop, you got something else to add to that before we move on and talk about the Hatchet Brothers?
We
have add another person in too.
Let's just go this. You have not seen the free agency deal work in the NFL. You can't go after a bunch of... I remember, what is it? I'm going to go with 01. The Washington Redskins went out and got LeVar Arrington, Deion Sanders. They got a bunch of guys. All these, and they had all of this loaded up, and they went 8-8. And that was the first time that I thought, you know what? Going after all the big time guys, there you go. So you can't get too excited about it. Yes, would it be dope if we just went out and said, you come here, you come here, you come here? Yes. But most of these massive transfer portal guys who are hitting it and they're bouncing out, and again, like you said earlier, they're ending up back in the portal because they get there and they got sour grapes right away. It is not a good deal. Yeah, look at USC last year. 100% is, they bring in all these dudes and they're doing it again because everybody wants to come in here and, but that USC job, that's looking a little rough right now. And I promise you this. I promise you this. Brent Venables is doing this the right way. Like if it is the better safe than sorry, all right, that's fine. Until we start seeing somebody pay out, because this is not sustainable. This is year 2.5, I guess, of all this. It's not sustainable. None of these people are going to be continued to drop out $1 million to watch their team go 9-3 or 10-2. That ain't going to happen.
Right.
If they're dropping millions of dollars and they're bragging to their friends about it, oh yeah, I donated $1 million, and I think we brought in this Herd kid, and then now you go and you end up number 5 or number 6 in the SEC. People are going to be done with that crap very fast.
Very. And let me add to that real quick. Somebody point this out. Gabe isn't impressed with any of the portal linemen we've grabbed so far. Gabe, I swear, when I saw Gabe talked about Fabici Waiwu as one that he really liked. He actually liked that pickup just because he was young. And he's someone that can be a good project, someone that could probably Actually, it's someone that can actually vie for starting spot. He's a freshman All-American. I'm going to go back and search for that one when we picked up Waywell, but I swear I heard Gabe say that he liked him. I could be wrong.
I believe so.
But, and Chuck mentioned, I'm very consistent, right or wrong, about what I say, and I am very consistent with that. But that's the one thing I do know is that Sooner Cowboy mentioned this earlier, and I love that he said this at the beginning. I think I just shot a link to Jason. He's probably going to jump in with us in a bit because I want to talk about this going forward, what Team 130 looks like because of the Polynesian Bowl and the way that we just saw David Stone, Jayden Jackson play. So, Cowboy, I appreciate you pointing this thing out because I don't think a lot of people believe this when I say this. Hold up. Let me see if I can find it real quick. That's there it is. Defense wins championships, right? Let's talk about Team 130. Before we do that, hit that like button. We've got 200 and something folks in here. Make sure you hit the like button. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're listening to the audio, rate, review, give us 5 stars. You think we deserve it? Just give us 5 anyway and gift it. So, defense wins championships, right? Money doesn't win championships. Defense does. Team 130. Y'all saw what David Stone, y'all either saw or you heard what David Stone, Jayden Jackson did. We talked about this earlier. Coop, we're bringing back probably one of the more experienced, if not the most experienced defense in the SEC. Am I right?
Yeah.
So, outside, because Georgia's actually losing corner. They're losing secondary players. And my Georgia boys, Coach Ian was mentioning that they're losing some guys in the secondary, so they're trying to replace. So you see them going heavy into the portal, going after dudes. Like, if there's one dude that I really would have wanted out of the portal that Bama lost, would have been Caleb Downs. But the unfortunate thing is Caleb Downs had already, I believe, been tampered with. And so he was already prepared to go to Ohio State because I think Ohio State was in his top 3 to begin with. Think about it that way. If the player's not in their top 3, they ain't going nowhere. There's only one person at Alabama right now that I know that we were in the top of that I hope we can decide to get our hands on is Jordan Renaud. That would be a nice pickup because that would be one player that I feel like we could make the magic happen with. And so for me, that's one of those players. Coop, what you think?
We are also Casey Poe was a big one too. I think he's a 24.
Oh yeah, Casey Poe,
Casey Poe, offensive lineman. But yeah, you bring back all the defense. You bring back you like I said, with Dejon Terry coming back, Stutzman in the middle of that line, all of that stuff right there. It is what it is. Those guys are going to continue to be in the system. You're going to see rotation of players, throughout some of the lower games and whatnot, just because of the fact that you need. There we go, Jason, my man. So you need.
Got an echo, Jason. I think that's on your side. Check for that real quick. I think we got a little echo on your end.
Okay.
But yeah, keep going.
I got a little bit in my ear too. But I'll say this is. This defense does come back. I think we're sitting on our offensive line. I think our offensive line needs to, if we can get that just figured out and the normal beat and ball increase as we go, I think we win. I because you need the offensive line to just make sure that you're just not getting whooped up front all day, every day. I think Jackson is good enough, but this is going to be, I will say, caution for everybody who thinks if we lose a game, our season's over. Get that mentality out of the way because, you can have 3 losses and make the playoff. So I think this next year, because 25 is the year that you really have your sights set on right now. Next year, you are building, and you want to see this team get better as you go on. Well, how do you do that? You, as a defense, get your butt off the field and let your offense try to gain some time, some momentum, some familiarity with each other. And I think that this defense is going to make another big jump. I think you're going to see a bunch of defensive linemen really start to make big splashes. And I think you're going to see more. We've got a lot of athletic freaks in the last 2 classes that are hoping to vie for the field. And that's another reason why you don't just go out there and start bringing all these transfers in, because you've got both the Taylors, Heim and Wine, who are just athletic freaks. And those guys, you need to see what they're going to be able to do.
Right.
So,
To add to that real quick,
excited.
that's kind of one thing to think about is some of these guys just need to be refined. And Gabe mentioned it. I think it was a Jen that pointed that out not too long ago in some of the videos that Gabe and them said is that it takes some players just need some work. Like they need some refining. Like they have the natural talent, they have the strength. And that's one thing I didn't notice about what Beatonbo's doing is a lot of these offensive linemen are just like naturally strong dudes. Like it's crazy. But anyway, let's welcome Jason to the house. Well, he disappeared. Actually, he was in here a second ago, and now he's gone. I think he had to go fix everything or whatnot. So we'll bring Jason back as soon as he gets back in. We'll welcome Jason when he comes back. But anyway, I've noticed that there's a lot of dudes that we're getting in. They strong, like strong, and that's what kind of makes them jump out, right? And I'm excited about what this team looks like. So defensively, we're walking in with the team that's strong. And I'm hearing feedback from you, Jason, again. You probably you ain't got the video going. Some interesting. Yeah, I hear me.
Hello.
But anyway. I hear me.
Yep.
I don't know.
So hey, say hi, Jason.
What's up? What's up, everybody? I can jump out of here if I need to, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, I'm hearing myself talking right there in the background.
I hear an echo for both of us.
But yes, it's not you. You actually sound Christopher. I'll let you mess with that in the background real quick. But what my point behind it is like, okay, so Team 130 is walking in with a very what's the best way to say experienced defense. And defense is what wins championships, right? We're gonna get that. Unmute yourself, Jason. We'll test it out again. We get experienced defense. We get a team that's gonna be built specifically to be sustainable longevity championship, because the foundation of these teams, and if you even saw what Alabama did, Alabama lost some players in the portal on a regular basis, but they also replenished, but they always led with their recruits. That was the Saban way. And I think that that's what we're seeing out of Venables as well. This is definitely manageable. Jason, how you doing, man?
Good, fellas. Good. Is it still doing that?
No, not as much. It's a lot lower, so I can work with it. Let's make it happen.
Hey, sorry, man. Sorry about that.
It's all right. Technology is technology, and it's Sunday night, so things happen or whatnot. But I think the big thing here is let's talk about it, folks. Let's talk about what the expectations we're seeing at a Team 130 going into spring and Schmitty winter workouts. What's y'all's expectations? How you feeling about them? Jason, I'll leave with you.
Man, expectations are starting to go up a little bit. I believe that these guys I think that they're starting to put the team together that Coach V wants to see. I kind of go back to Big 12 Media Days last year, and you heard Sark talking about that was a football team that really felt like his team, looked like his team, sounded like his team. I think that this is starting to become a football team that looks and sounds and feels like Brent Venables, not Lincoln Riley, not anything else that, a lot of people were expecting. Kind of going back to what you guys were talking about in the last segment, he's not going to do anything at the expense of the culture they are trying to build here. And I just see, I think that everything we see is what we want to see coming into this thing. There's always the unknown. You worry about them, how are they going to do that first year, tough schedule, everything else. But overall, I believe that this football team is headed in the right direction. I'm excited about the future. It's SEC time.
Yeah, man. It's Team 130. It looks different, man. And then seeing Jayden Jackson and David Stone play in that Polynesian Bowl and get and be as effective and as disruptive as they were in that entire game. Stupid. Coop. Team 130 defensive side. Of course, we could start there. How you feeling about what's jumping out to you going into these workouts, and who are you ready to see really when it comes to the spring game?
Well, I'll say this just right away. Nick Saban made our schedule easier. Now it's still going to be Alabama, but when you have DeBoer coming in and you have the players in and out, everybody is going to be sitting there. And I think they were talking about on NFL Today this morning, getting ready for the playoffs. Is like when you know that you've got a lame coach and you are playing your heart out, and you're like, man, this coach. And talking about McCarthy, like, how hard do you play when you know your coach is about to get bounced? Well, same situation with what's going on down there is those Alabama players, a lot of people bounce, right? So now you've got to retool everything from a team that probably overachieved this year in Alabama. I don't think that was a very good team. I think that for a 3 or 4 game stretch, we saw good play out of them. But now I'll just say this is, there's not a lot of coaches that you could say, like, by their absence, you lose multiple different edges. And by Nick Saban disappearing, there's not that fear of, oh my God, Nick Saban is going to find out what you really want to do and just take it away. DeBoer's going to be a good coach. I'm 100% sure on that one, but he's not Nick Saban. He's nowhere near Nick Saban. And the moment that any turmoil happens there, that's going to be tough. So you go to OU. This team now with the bowl game loss, right? You've got this team who's sitting there and getting stronger. You've got the competitive depth coming in. I don't have a drink right now, so I'll pretend. But you've got that happening. You're going to have a chip on your shoulder, and you're going to go into every single one of these games wanting to show who you are. And that is a massive mental difference than you being the dog in the Big 12 that everybody's going to give the best shot to.
Yeah.
And that is something that is going to be an immediate flip right from the get-go when we head in here.
Ooh,
I promise you this.
I disagree with you there. I got to disagree with you there. And I'll say that real quick because I think everybody in the SEC's goal is to embarrass OU in Texas.
I don't doubt that.
For sure.
I don't doubt that.
That's the only reason why I disagree with you. That I had to stop you there and disagree is because I really do think that the switch that we was hoping to get of everybody's not going to give us no, they want to embarrass us because they want to say it's the SEC, it means more. I think it's BS, but your point outside that's spot on.
I say this is every team outside of, and I don't know who I was listening to. Maybe it was Josh Pate. Josh Pate was like, do you guys understand? Does the whole SEC outside of Bama and Georgia, do you all understand who's coming into the SEC? Because if you're one of those guys going SEC, you're a team and a fan that has done nothing.
Right.
And so now Oklahoma's coming
Absolutely.
in here. And he made a comment about how if you're a Missouri, and yes, I'm talking to you dipshit fans at Missouri, and I'm sorry, I usually don't do that. But all of y'all, bye. And kids, if you're watching right now and you want to know what happened and what I mean by that, ask your daddy. So you're sitting there thinking as a Kentucky, as a Vanderbilt, as Florida, that OU and Texas is going to come in, and now you get to no, you are going down a notch. Here's the thing where I think is Oklahoma walks into the SEC and this whole like, let's go embarrass them. They're going to go, let's go embarrass them. But those teams are still those teams. And right. It's different. It's different from like, I don't think that you're going to see SEC football doing the shenanigans and trickery that you're getting out of Kansas and out of Polk State and all these Iowa State and everything like that. They're going to play their football. They're just going to try to go do it really, really well. And I'll say this, outside of Bama, LSU, with their all-star team in Georgia, OU has not had anything to be scared of from SEC. We played Auburn, and we stuck it to Auburn. We've gone out to Tennessee. We've handled Tennessee. So we got Bama, LSU, Florida, and Georgia. Yeah, back in
No.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Game like 3 years ago.
Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, exactly.
Rattler's team. Yeah, so we ended what's his name's career. So
Kyle Trask.
Yeah, we ended Kyle. And Baker's still ending his career one day at a time. So
one day at a time, every time he plays. That's right.
but add to that, though.
Coop is on cooking.
Yeah. He's turning red too, and everything. He's starting to turn crimson the entire time he was going at it. But no, Chuck, to your point, and I wanted to add this to even what Coop is saying. Yes, that was why they hired Brent Venables to get us prepared to go into the SEC. And him walking in, I bet you he told him, I'm looking at the roster and evaluations. I could work with some of this, but I'm going to have to do a refresh to get the talent that we're going to need based upon evals. And guess what's happened?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Coach Clinton was on with us on the last, 2 Sundays ago when we came live to y'all, Brian told y'all we had like a 92% refresh of the roster. That's how few of Lincoln Riley's players have been here in a 3-year span, a 2 season span, 2 full seasons. We've gotten rid of just about over 90% of the players. That's unheard of. The only team that did that like that was Colorado, and they went from 1 win to 4. Right? Like, that's not something that's typically common to see, that a team that can refresh that big, go from 6 wins and then get 10 wins the next year. The talent's here. They've been coached up. They're conditioned. Now we're getting the depth. And so there's someone in here that made a comment that I want to point out real quick. Go ahead, Jason. I'm going to find this comment.
Yeah, something that, and I said this in my video the other day when we were talking about who's the more ready of the, Big 8, Big 12, Red River teams to go into the SEC. And I said it then, and I'm talking about it now. You're talking about schools like, MES said this just a second ago. You've got a lot of coaching turnover. And for as great as everybody thinks that Mizzou is supposed to be, here they are. They lose their defensive staff essentially to LSU. But they want to sit there and act like they are on the same level as Oklahoma. It's never been that way. It's never going to be that way. There will never be a time that I could ever tell you that I'm going to pick Missouri to beat OU. Anytime, ever, 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 ever. And the same would be said for Arkansas. The same would be said for Ole Miss. The same would be said for Mississippi State. In Tennessee, any of these schools that expect that they're just going to walk all over this, Big 12 team, Oklahoma, they're out of their freaking mind.
Well, look at what Texas did to Alabama in Tuscaloosa, right? And we've even said it. Coop mentioned it earlier. This was probably Nick Saban's most impressive coaching job. And I'm going to say this. This is going to be a little bit of a controversial take on my thoughts on why Nick Saban retired. I don't think he had any fear of the NIL or transfer portal. I don't think it had anything to do with that. Outside of the personal stuff he mentioned in there, I think there was one other big reason why Nick Saban decided, you know what? I don't think I can do this no more at 72 years old. Retraining assistant coaches, right?
That's
Kevin
it.
Steele retires,
That's
and
it.
he's like, dude, I've gone through so many coaches. And at a certain point, that's exhausting. Think about it. That's what makes Saban so great. He's been going through so many coaches every single year. Mm-hmm. Every 2 years, he had a new offensive coordinator, at least. Like, I think only one coach lasted 3 years at offensive coordinator, and that was his first 3 years starting here at Alabama. But outside of that, every 2 years. But as soon as Kirby Smart left, which Kirby Smart was his defensive coordinator for 9 years, that is stability. Ever since then, it was 2 years, 2 to 3 years at defensive coordinator.
Well, still
when everybody's poaching your folks, right?
Still
when everybody's
himself after the Rose Bowl, he said, "If you think anybody besides Nick Saban is the defensive coordinator, you're crazy."
Yeah, and that's what the problem was. And he even mentioned he started taking over the defense a little bit more than he wanted to. But at the same time, he had to because Kevin Steele was doing it. He got rid of Pete Golden left and went to Ole Miss. In theory, that was a push out. Pete Golden didn't end up being the guy that he was hoping he was going to be, and that's what happens. And so my point behind all of that is Saban bouncing, helping us out. Thank you, Nick Saban, for that. And Coop, thank you for pointing that part out. But one of the things to remember, and this is something I've seen a recurring comment in here, and I'm going to go with Mess here. This is the one that was pointed out. BB needs every effort and talent like Eugene Brooks to get into rotation in spring ball, which I get. Caden Green can earn freshman All-American. Eugene Brooks can. I love that. Everybody's in here concerned about Jackson Arnold being protected. Did y'all go see the class that we brought in of offensive linemen?
Nope.
I'm just curious if y'all actually, did y'all hear my rant? I literally had like a 10-minute rant earlier, right? I literally went all in about 45 minutes ago on this stream. And I purposely did that because I want y'all to understand. Go look at the dudes we brought in. The good thing for us is we have enough guys on the offensive line that have played or been in practice with us the last 2 years that we'll be fine at O-line and we'll be serviceable because Jackson Arnold can move. Jackson Arnold's pretty good and witty. He can go. The defense is probably going to carry us next season, which I'm happy that they will. 25, The O-line and the D-line will be shored up enough to where we should be easily in the top 5 at the initial rankings. This is the good part about that, and this is why I pointed that part out. Go look at that line we brought in. Eugene Brooks is one of those players that a lot of us is thinking he might play. The best D-line class since the Switzer days. Gerald McCoy was great when he came in, but he was by himself basically. Who else we didn't think? We're seeing a complete change of the new era of Sooner civilization.
Jay, they haven't had 4 top 100 defensive linemen like they have in the last 2 seasons in 15 years.
Yeah.
We're seeing a difference.
And I'll say that, with I checked my math on this one, but with Gerald McCoy, I think Jeremy Bill was the second most touted, and he ended up being kind of a linebacker / edge. So, right. There you go. Like that. So these guys, Jayden Jackson, I knew when he, and if you guys do not remember.
What a stud, dude.
He was guaranteed to Texas. He came in self-escorted by David Stone. And then what did he do? Right there.
That's right.
So
you got 2 dudes that want to play with each other too. That's the best part about Jayden Jackson and David Stone together, dude.
Yeah.
They love playing next to each other because one will eat up the blocks and get the other one free. Then the other one will do the same thing for the other. But then you start adding all the other people you have. You get your R. Mason Thomas, your PJ Adebaware, Danny Okoye. The defensive line, of course, is all great. The linebackers are getting more experience this year. Our secondary is our most experienced part of the team, which I'm very happy to see that. On the offensive line, I promise you, y'all may not know these dudes, just like y'all didn't really talk much about Jay Gibson as well as Nick Anderson, right? Going into this season and question about Andrew Anthony, if he was going to be any good or if Drake Stoops really is going to be that impactful on this team. Remember we were saying about all that about the wide receivers?
Yeah.
The offensive line is going to be just fine too. They've got the players that they want that's going to go in there and start causing problems. Now, are they going to be like a Joe Moore award-winning line? Too young for that. I think that it's going to take another year for us to get to that point. But I like the backups we have. I can't wait to see Heath Zeta, who I heard's pretty nasty dude. Like, he's got a nasty streak to him. That was the thing that Caden Green had. But you got Eugene Brooks, who we watched toss around a bunch of 5 stars. Isaiah Autry, who, watching his film when it was Mississippi versus Alabama, that game that they play, he looked nasty playing against those other 4 and 5 star
Don't
players.
Forget about Joshua Bates from last season, guys like that. There's guys that are on this offensive line that are going to compete for time on this offensive line that are going to be just fine. And Joshua Bates, I don't think Joshua Bates had a practice this year that he didn't get in a fight with somebody. I love that. Yeah. I freaking love that.
Yeah, and then you can add
Akinkunmi.
Is it?
He's and I'll say this: Akinkunmi going to be on the show here before too long, and now that he's over here, but talking to Okoye, talking to Dan Akinkunmi, right now these guys are going in and they're learning what it's like to be standing next to someone who's just as good as you, and then you start learning some chemistry. But you bring in EPL, who dude was running, was it a 4.6? Did you see that video? It looked like some photoshopping was going on because the dude's running next to him looked like a
getting it.
I can't say anything politically correct right there, but yeah, we've got talent galore. Sexton, again, yesterday was a year since he had the surgery. It's still an ACL, and he is going to, and he's been flopping all over the place. So you've got Everett, you've got Bates, who are going to fight it out for the center. Yep. You've got the kids who are on campus now, and we've got plenty of talent. And what you're going to see is Jackson Arnold is going to have. Let me stop it with here. The RPO game is going to go a little bit away, not all the way away, but a lot of it's going to go away. If you got the offensive line who's trying to learn, you're going to pass the ball outside. You're going to get the ball out. So guys like Burks who are coming in, it's go time, right? You want to get the ball sideline to sideline and then use them stretch plays. So you want to make sure that the defensive line is always going to be thinking of, is it outside? Are they stretching? Are they pulling? What's going on? And that's going to be how the season starts out. And then every once in a while, you're going to get some series to where they're like, all right, guys, let's go lean on some folks and let's see what you guys can do. So, yes, it is going to be tough. It is not going to be the, Orlando Brown, Creed Humphrey, Ben Powers. We're not going to see that line. You're going to see side to side. And that's going to be fun. And as that line starts getting better and better and better, it's game time. And so with the RPO because Levy was a full-on RPO, and we saw a little bit of the same offense in the bowl game, but you're going to pull back off the RPO from majority of the time.
Yeah, you're going to see a different offense when you get Seth Luttrell running things, right? He's already even said it. Even Jackson Arnold mentioned that he liked that this staff went in with the similar offense they've been running all season just to keep continuity going into the bowl game, but they're going to install all the new stuff in there. But, man, Hollenbeck, the 25 kid, he's going to be your next Creed. He's like 340 pounds, and he doesn't look it. He's a slim 340. But the other thing to remember, too, here is you still, as mentioned, EPL won't be here till the summer, because I think he does track as well outside of just running those 100-yarders. I think he does like shot put and stuff like that. He does track stuff, so he won't be here until the summer. Teammates with Lewis Carter, the Crimson Missile. They're going to be nasty of a combo when it comes to the way this line's going to come together this summer. And also remember, if, knock on wood, we don't have any injuries, but if something does come down the pipe and we feel like we need to go after someone in the portal, spring portal is going to be probably the busiest one anyway. Because at that point, you're going to see a lot of people making their decisions if they want to stay where they're at, or if they're going to go somewhere else. So I tell everybody, keep your eyes open for the spring portal. That's when we picked up Dejon Terry. And he's back, and he's going to probably direct some shop in the SEC next year because he ain't going to be double teamed as much. He's got a lot of people behind him that's going to make it even tougher. We've got it. And as Bishop mentioned here, we've got a lot of young linemen that's going to do some very good stuff. And I love this too, Jake. This is the one thing that jumped out to me too, is we got bye weeks before all of our important games. The Alabama game doesn't scare me as much, but I don't want us to write off Alabama because they're bringing some of the Washington kids over. So they're bringing dudes that just came back from the Natty while keeping a lot of the Alabama talent. Alabama's refreshing their roster similar to what we have to deal with. And I talked to our boy Ty. They're at about 70. They're at 70. They're at about 78. I think 75 to 78 scholarships now. So they're finally under their number. That attrition was going to happen anyway. They lose about 20 kids a year because they have to get down. Because Bama still brings in big classes. If y'all notice that, they still bring in a lot of big classes, and they sure up in the transfer portal like they need to. Well, they've had like 30 people leave, gets them under the number they want to, and they're starting to bring in portal dudes. So they're going to be fine. But that's what we're doing too. I think we are I think we're 5. We may be close to 5 scholarships over. I have to go look at the last set of numbers with everybody, but we still got some moving that we got to do. And we'll wrap it up and talk about these the Hatchet brothers who are in the portal from Washington. As we talked about before, both of them visited Oklahoma while they were recruits and decided to stay home in Washington. Well, one of them is in town, and he's doing a visit. It's been all over the interwebs. We're just waiting for some final information to come down the line. But, Coop, how you feel about the potential of a Hatchet pulling up to Oklahoma?
I really think that there's going to be some I really think that there's going to be I think that they end up here. I feel positive about it. And it's I really don't want to I feel like if you don't get them, it's not a big deal. But I feel like we do need numbers. I don't want to wait to the spring because that's a tough deal to try to fit in chemistry wise. But when you look at the portal, we started out with the chemistry portion. But let's just do this: is when you take a look at everybody that is on the offensive line that's coming in. If if they're very, very comfortable in all these guys, does it hurt to bring in other guys?
Nope.
So
Competitive depth.
I think that we need around 17, 18 offensive linemen on the roster. Functional, Gentry being banged up, and, Kani Walker, he balled out in a lot of different times. But again, you just want to make sure, because to win the national championship and to go to the playoffs, your competitive depth needs to be minuscule drop-off. Now, what makes you win is when you have a Gentry Williams and a Woody playing to the best, not having Gentry 50-50 and then Kani Walker sliding in. So you got to continue to do that, because, like we said, if we're 4 or 5 over, you're going to kind of press pause on who you're pushing out or suggesting to make it go, because you've got guys, and I mentioned this in the past, is with the competitive depth pieces, you're going to start seeing guys that you don't want to see leave, like a Jayden Rowe. He might be somebody who is on the block to leave. You bring in a linebacker, now all of a sudden Lewis Carter goes, should I maybe go back home? So you want to watch for stuff like that, because these guys are ballers, and if they've got if they got 4 or 5 people in front of them, they want to play. And the years of sitting around and starting for 2 years, your junior and senior year, that's just tough. It's just tough for these kids to do that, especially when they've got handlers pinging them and saying, hey, listen, we got one starting safety. We could really work. We really work and get you in here. And I think that's why you saw Daya McCullough bounce, is because he knew that he was a ways down the depth.
Agreed. I don't know that Robert was asking if both come, who transfers out. I don't know that you do have anybody transfer. Again, the offensive line is one of those positions that you need a lot of depth there, because there's guys that get hurt. They're going through freaking car accidents every play. It is what it is. I think that these guys are look, you guys know that I have been the guy who has been the least, optimistic about year one in the SEC, just because of the schedule, if nothing else, and the fact that you have essentially a freshman quarterback starting. I think that there is a reason to temper expectations a bit, so that you don't have to freaking fire BV if they go 9-3. You know what I mean? Or have the whole fan base freaking out about it anyway. I just feel like it's just but I do think that the more that we see with what's going on at Alabama, with the fact that the teams that are on their way up in the SEC, aside from Georgia, of course, are still works in progress also. Now, again, I still believe that this is going to be a tough schedule, but they're all works in progress. So I think theoretically, you can come in there and win 10 games and compete for a playoff spot right away. Is it as easy as what it should be for Texas? No, but Texas has, aside from Oklahoma and Georgia, Texas's conference slate is below 14 games below 500 in 2023. They should, no way, if they split with OU and Georgia, that there is any way they should not be in the conference championship game. But that doesn't mean that Oklahoma can't do it, though. That doesn't, because, again, I'm never going to tell you that Mizzou is going to be on the field with OU when it all comes down to it. I believe that Ole Miss is going to be a tough game. I think that Auburn may reach up and scare you, but I also believe that I'm not too sure that Oklahoma kids give a shit about Jordan-Hare Stadium and what it means to everybody else, because they don't know anything about it.
Right. And for a lot of people, the thing to understand, and Tony saying here, which is hilarious, we're not ready. Stop the hype. I mean, you can sulk and be sad if you want to, but I understand the type of players that we're recruiting, that what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Going in with a freshman, with a sophomore quarterback, actually, since he won't be a redshirt, a sophomore quarterback in Jackson Arnold, I'm not that concerned, because I would be concerned if the players were a little nervous about the way that he was practicing. And there's a lot of players that they've been gassing him more than I expected. You don't really hear that about players talking about backups. They're like, no, he's a dude. So I think that we're going to be fine there. And Jason, you made a great point. A lot of these teams, only team that's really not refreshing at the most critical position is Texas and Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss,
But
and
Texas is.
Georgia.
Texas
Well,
is. They're
they're not.
refreshing a
They're
lot
not.
of their guys.
Quinn is still the starting quarterback.
Okay,
That's
well,
my
there.
point. That's my point.
Okay, I got you there.
You got Quinn there. You've got Jackson Dart coming back to Ole Miss. You've got Jalen Milroe's going to return to Alabama. That terrifies me with Ryan Grubb, 100%.
Sure.
It terrifies the hell out of me. And then Georgia get Carson Beck. I mean, I don't know how I feel about Missouri and Brady. I wasn't very high on Brady Cook this year anyway, but, he's coming back, but whatevs, But him and Jackson Dart, to me, are in the same category. What am I supposed to be afraid of with them, right? There's a way that you can get them going. We've seen other teams do it to them. Our defense is going to be what carries us. And so as long as we're going against Nico, who's a younger quarterback, he's a stud. I actually have fear of him, but at the same time, he's still young. Yeah. We're going to find a way. Our defense is going to carry us through these major games against these better players, especially at the quarterback spot. Like you just said, Jason, Texas is doing a lot of refreshing. They got a lot of
defensive
kids.
line, Bo Davis included. You got to think about Bo Davis included there because of the fact they've got a bunch of new defensive linemen. I know Colin Simmons is a dude. I get it. But, man, you got to think about the fact that they've got a lot of guys along that line that haven't gotten a lot of time. Their secondary is a refresh. They're not that good either. Look, I think Texas may have blew their shot. They had their most realistic chance to win the Natty this season. And they went out there and didn't get it done.
Yeah. They did not get it done. They had their chance. It was there. But what happened? They didn't do it. So now all we got to do is make sure that they don't have a chance to do it any other time. We've got to make sure that we push them down the stairs.
Yeah,
that's
going to
be
our
stairs.
turn.
We got to push them down the stairs and make sure
Love
that we continue to push that forward. So, Coop, let's wrap this bad boy up. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. This team is going to you're going to see some really cool stuff. This is now, like I said, in year 3, you've got all this culture. It is a player-led team just as well. Zach Alley is going to be a major factor on the recruiting trail, but it allows more energy. Brent Venables can be floating around. Alley is mini Brent Venables. He is going to be sitting there with the linebackers. And but you got another year where Brandon Hall is going to continue to make them that safety room. Think about it, guys. Our safety room is a strength of our team. Like we have, if it's Peyton Bowen and Billy Bowman starting this as a safety tandem, how far away is that from what we've seen 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Like it is amazing. Like you've got that. You've got some health and some more maturity from the defensive backs. So with Jay Valai, guys, I don't think that we're rolling into the SEC with any fear. I think that you've got guys who that is the camaraderie of let's go take it to them. Guys, that's what we're going to be leading with. And I think that that's different from like Texas is most of the times, I mean, the thoughts around Texas are we're Texas. It's just the confidence. We're Texas. So they show up and they're expecting you guys should fear us. We're Texas. I think that the rally cry is different on both sides. And so I have a lot of optimism. And I've been bringing up the quarterback refresh. Sark has better. God, they're losing again. Your top 2 receivers, your tight end. You have
top 3 receivers.
The strength of your team, which was your defensive line. They're gone. You're bringing in a bunch of mercenaries. And Texas already has a culture issue, and so you bring in a bunch of mercenaries.
Yep.
Guys, I would expect watch Texas. I have a feeling we might see a little regression from Texas this year, from something semi-catastrophic.
I think that their schedule is going to make it hard for them to fall too far because, I mean, literally it's just bad coming down the stretch. But
it is.
I do agree with what you're talking about. I think that the difference in Oklahoma and Texas last year, going to the Red River, what was everybody saying? They're going to kill us in the trenches. They're going to kill us in the trenches. They're going to kill us in the trenches. And then what happened? They didn't. They got dominated in the trenches. Their offensive line did not have the push that they expected it to get. You know, their defensive line wasn't getting to Dylan Gabriel, and Oklahoma's defensive line was getting to Quinn. And here's the thing. The one thing I'll say about Quinn is he's afraid to go down the field. The underneath passes are great, but you could bend all day just like they did, and just like Washington did, really.
Yeah.
Once it got down to it, bend, take away the deep ball, they're in trouble. And he's afraid to go down the field. He was afraid to go at the end zone from 12 yards out in the Sugar Bowl. This is who we're supposed to be afraid of? Come on.
There's a lot to recognize, and we'll dive deeper into that as we go through the spring because, you know, as we see who they finally finish up with and what the rosters look like, there's a lot to point out. And like you said, they lost some coaches, they lost some players, they lost a lot more critical stuff than I think we did at all. And so
That's right.
let's wrap it up with a bow. And Jason, let the people know where to find you. I'm gonna let y'all get back to y'all's evening. I gotta go finish packing so I can hit my flight first thing in the morning.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's Hall of Fame college football with Jason and the coach. What's up, coach? I see you out there in the comments.
Coach, I see you in here. Thanks for pulling up.
At CFB-pod right here on YouTube. You can find us at HallOfFameMedia.us as well, HOFmedia.us. And then, of course, I'm at JW_HOF on Twitter. Hit us up. Go check out the new video I got up right now.
Actually, he just put one up or whatnot. And you can catch me and Coop. We'll be back next Sunday. No show on Wednesday. I'm traveling all week. I won't be back until Friday morning at best. I'm going to try to get some content recorded and drop throughout the week while I'm around. Hopefully, I'll have some good stuff for you. But, yeah, we'll probably just be playing replays of this show throughout the week and cutting it. So, thanks for pulling up. Wipe your feet. Hit the like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe, rate, review, give us 5 stars if you're listening. You don't think we deserve it, just give us 5 anyway and gift it. So with that, Coop, I myself, Jason, and the rest of the collective will check and chop it up with y'all next week because next week is the junior weekend, junior day. And so we're gonna be talking a lot about all the dudes that showed up for that.
List.
And how we got the list is gonna be nasty. PG has a nice list of all the players that have been pulling up. He's been talking about it in videos. Go check out the PG show. You know, my boy does it there. And, yeah, we'll dive into that next Sunday. You have a good one. Horns down as usual. Peace.